The envelope was small. That was the first thing I noticed. It was sitting on my kitchen table on the morning of my birthday, tucked underneath my coffee mug. There was no expensive wrapping paper, no fancy ribbon, just a plain white envelope, with my name written across the front in crooked blue letters. Mom. I smiled. Then I noticed something strange. The envelope was heavy. Not heavy enough to hold a gift card. Not heavy enough to hold money, but heavy enough that when I picked it up, something inside made a soft metallic sound. I looked toward the hallway. Ethan? No answer. My 9-year-old son was usually impossible to keep quiet, especially on a Saturday morning. I opened the envelope, and when I saw what was inside, I couldn't breathe. There were coins. Dozens of them. Pennies, nickels, dimes, a few quarters, and folded between them was a handwritten note. I unfolded it with shaking hands. It said, "Mom, I know you always say you don't need anything, so I saved enough to get you something you really need. Please don't be sad when you see it. I love you." I stared at those words. Then I looked at the coins, and suddenly I remembered every little moment I'd ignored over the previous few months. Every time Ethan had refused a candy bar. Every time he'd put $1 back in his pocket. Every time he'd told me, "I'm saving it." I just never knew what he was saving for until that morning. And what my little boy had bought with those coins changed the way I looked at motherhood forever. My name is Sarah, and at the time this happened, I was 38 years old. I was a single mother living with my son in a small 2-bedroom rental outside Columbus, Ohio. Our life wasn't terrible, but it wasn't easy either. I worked as an administrative assistant at a medical office. It was a steady job, but between rent, groceries, utilities, car insurance, school expenses, and everything else, there wasn't much left at the end of each month. Ethan knew we had to be careful with money, but I tried very hard not to let him feel poor. I didn't want him growing up thinking that his childhood was defined by what we couldn't afford, so I found ways to make ordinary things special. Instead of expensive vacations, we had backyard camping nights. Instead of going to restaurants, we made homemade pizzas. Instead of buying every new video game, we'd check out movies and board games from the library. And whenever Ethan asked me if we had enough money for something, I'd smile and say, "We have enough for what we need." I never told him how often I quietly moved money from one bill to another. I never told him that sometimes I ate cereal for dinner so there would be enough food for him. I never told him about the credit card bill I was constantly trying to bring down. I never told him that I had started putting off getting my car's brakes replaced because I was afraid of what it would cost. To Ethan, I was simply Mom, and Mom always had an answer. My birthday had never been a big event. After Ethan's father and I divorced, birthdays became much quieter. There were no fancy dinners, no weekend getaways, no surprise parties, just me and my little boy. And honestly, I preferred it that way. When Ethan was 6, he made me a birthday card from construction paper. It had a giant red heart on the front. Inside, he'd written, "I love you more than pizza." At 6 years old, that was the highest compliment imaginable. I kept the card. When he was 7, he picked dandelions from the front yard and gave them to me. When he was 8, he made me breakfast. Unfortunately, the breakfast consisted of burnt toast and a bowl of cereal with far too much milk. But he had carried it into my bedroom with the biggest smile I'd ever seen. So I ate every bite. This year, I assumed we'd do something similar. Maybe pancakes. Maybe a movie. Maybe Ethan would make another card. I didn't expect anything more. A few months before my birthday, I noticed something changing. Ethan started saving money. It began with a quarter. One afternoon, we stopped at a grocery store. I gave him $1 because he'd helped me carry the bags. He looked at the vending machines near the entrance. Normally, he would have immediately asked for candy. Instead, he put the $1 into his pocket. "You don't want anything?" He shook his head. "No." I raised an eyebrow. "Are you feeling okay?" He laughed. "I'm saving it." "For what?" He smiled mysteriously. "I can't tell you." I laughed. "Okay, Mr. Secret Agent." He walked away. I didn't think much of it. A week later, we went to the dollar store. He saw a little toy car. He picked it up. Then he put it back. Don't you want that? No. Are you sure? Yep. Why? He tapped his pocket. Saving. I smiled. Saving for something important. He nodded. Very important. I didn't ask again. Over the next several weeks, it became a pattern. At school, he stopped buying snacks. At the grocery store, he refused little treats. When his grandmother sent him $10 for helping with yard work, he put the entire amount into an old glass jar. One evening, I walked into his room and saw him sitting on the floor counting coins. He had arranged them in little stacks. What are you doing? He jumped. Nothing. I laughed. I can see that you're doing something. He quickly covered the coins with his hands. It's a secret. Okay. I walked away, but I couldn't help smiling. My son was terrible at keeping secrets. Then one afternoon, I found a receipt in his backpack. It was from a local store. I looked at the items. A small notebook, a pack of pens, a cheap photo frame. I immediately felt guilty for looking. When Ethan came home, I handed him the receipt. You dropped this. His face went pale. Mom, I didn't mean to snoop. Did you read it? Only the receipt. He sighed. Okay. I smiled. Is the secret getting bigger? He grinned. Maybe. I shook my head. Whatever you're planning, you don't have to spend money on me. His smile disappeared. I know. You don't need to buy me anything. I know. I mean it. He looked directly at me. I know, Mom. Then he walked to his room. I didn't realize how seriously he had taken my words. 2 weeks before my birthday, something else happened. I came home from work late. The office had been short-staffed, and I'd stayed an extra 2 hours. I was exhausted. When I opened the front door, the house was dark. Ethan? Kitchen! I walked in. He was sitting at the table doing homework. Why are you still awake? I wanted to wait for you. You should have gone to bed. I know. I dropped my bag. How was school? Good. How was your spelling test? Good. Any problems? He shook his head. Then he looked at me. You look tired. I smiled. I'm okay. He frowned. You always say that. I laughed. Because I am. He didn't laugh. Instead, he asked, Mom, when was the last time you bought something for yourself? I froze. What? For yourself? I thought about it. I don't know. He waited. I smiled. Why? He shrugged. Just wondering. Then he looked back at his homework. I walked over and kissed his forehead. Go to bed after you finish. Okay. As I walked away, I heard him whisper, soon. I didn't know what he meant. My birthday arrived on a rainy Saturday. I woke up around 7. The house was unusually quiet. I walked downstairs. No Ethan. I checked the living room. Empty. Then I heard a noise from the kitchen. I walked in. Ethan was standing on a chair. He was trying to hang a homemade banner above the table. It read, Happy birthday, Mom. The letters were uneven. One of them was upside down. I smiled. Ethan. He jumped. Don't look. I covered my eyes. Okay. Go back upstairs. I laughed. Fine. I went upstairs. 5 minutes later, he shouted, Okay. I came back down. The table had been decorated with construction paper flowers. There was a pancake in the middle of a plate. It was shaped like something between a heart and a potato. I looked at it. What is this? A heart. I smiled. Of course it is. And don't laugh. I'm not laughing. You're smiling. That's because I'm happy. He smiled. Then he handed me the envelope. This is for you. I took it. What's inside? Open it. And that's how I found the coins. I looked at him. Ethan. He shifted nervously. Read the note. I unfolded it. My eyes moved across the words. Mom, I know you always say you don't need anything, so I saved enough to get you something you really need. Please don't be sad when you see it. I love you. I looked at the coins again. What did you buy? He smiled. It's not in the envelope. I was confused. What do you mean? Come outside. He grabbed my hand. We walked into the garage. My car was parked inside. It was an old Honda I'd owned for years. It wasn't beautiful. There were scratches on the side. One headlight was slightly cloudy. And lately, the brakes had been making a terrible squeaking sound. I had been ignoring it. Ethan walked toward the driver's side. Then he pointed to something sitting on the workbench. A small cardboard box. I opened it. Inside was a new pair of brake pads. I stared at them. Then I looked at Ethan. How? He smiled. I bought them. My heart stopped. You bought these? He nodded. With your money? Yes. Ethan, these are not a toy. I know. You needed that money. No. His voice became serious. I wanted you to be safe. I couldn't speak. He continued. You said the brakes were making a funny noise. When did I say that? You told Grandma. I remembered. I had mentioned it casually during a phone call. I never thought Ethan was listening. He had been. Apparently, he had heard every word. I knelt down. Where did you get all this money? He shrugged. My allowance. That's not enough. I helped Mr. Harris clean his garage. Mr. Harris paid you? $10. What else? I walked Mrs. Peterson's dog. I stared at him. Every Saturday? He nodded. Since January. What? I shoveled snow too. I suddenly remembered the mornings when Ethan had disappeared early. I thought he was playing outside. He had been working. Why didn't you tell me? Because then it wouldn't be a surprise. I started crying. He immediately looked worried. Mom, I told you not to be sad. I pulled him into my arms. I'm not sad. Yes, you are. These are happy tears. He hugged me tightly. I just wanted you to have something. You gave me something. What? I held him closer. You gave me the best birthday I've ever had. But there was more. He pulled another envelope from his pocket. There's one more thing. I opened it. Inside was a receipt. It was for a car repair shop. He had apparently already spoken with a mechanic. I stared at the paper. What is this? He said the brakes should be changed soon. My heart broke. You talked to a mechanic? He nodded. Mr. Harris took me. I couldn't stop crying. Ethan, you don't have to take care of me. He looked at me. I know. I'm supposed to take care of you. I know. That's my job. He smiled. But sometimes people who take care of everybody need someone to take care of them too. I stared at my 9-year-old son. Where had he learned that? I didn't know. Maybe from watching me. Maybe from life. Maybe children understand more than we give them credit for. That afternoon, we went to the repair shop. The mechanic, a friendly man named Mike, looked at Ethan. You the one who called me? Ethan nodded. Mike smiled. Your son has been very concerned about your car. I laughed through my tears. I can see that. Mike inspected the brakes. They were worse than I had realized. You were right to get these changed. I looked at Ethan. He smiled proudly. The repair wasn't cheap. It was more than the money Ethan had saved. I told him we would cover the difference. He nodded. Okay. But then Mike surprised us. He looked at Ethan. You know what? What? I'm going to install them for free. Ethan's eyes widened. Really? Mike smiled. Yep. Why? Mike looked at me. Because I had a kid once. I didn't understand. Mike continued. He grew up. Moved across the country. We don't talk much anymore. He looked at Ethan. And I think it's pretty special when a kid worries about his mom. Then he waved us into the waiting area. Go get some lunch. I'll take care of the car. That night, Ethan and I sat at the kitchen table. We ate pizza. The cheap kind. Our favorite. I looked at him. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why did you save all that money? He looked confused. I told you. I know. I waited. But why? He thought for a moment. Because you never buy things for yourself. I smiled. I buy what I need. No. He shook his head. You buy what we need. That sentence hit me. You always say we have enough. He paused. But sometimes I see you looking at things. What things? Shoes. I laughed. Shoes? Yeah. When? At the mall. I remembered. Months earlier, I'd stopped in front of a store window. There had been a pair of brown boots I loved. They cost $79. I couldn't justify spending that much. I'd walked away. Ethan had been holding my hand. I didn't think he noticed. He had. "You wanted those," he said. I smiled. "I did." "Why didn't you get them?" "Because I didn't need them." He nodded. "That's what you always say." I looked at him. Then he said, "So I decided to buy you something you really did need." "What?" He smiled. "Something that keeps you safe." I reached across the table. He took my hand. That night, after Ethan went to bed, I sat alone in the living room. The house was quiet. I looked at the photo on the wall. It was Ethan at 3 years old. He was missing his 2 front teeth. He was holding a toy dinosaur. I smiled. I thought about all the years. I'd worried about whether I was giving him enough. Enough food, enough clothes, enough opportunities, enough love, enough childhood. But that day, my son had shown me something. Children don't always measure love in dollars. They measure it in attention, in sacrifices, in consistency, in the little things they notice when adults think they aren't watching. Ethan hadn't seen my old car. He had seen his mother. He hadn't seen the bills. He had seen me working. He hadn't seen an exhausted woman coming home late. He had seen someone who needed help, and he had decided to become the person who helped. A few months later, something unexpected happened. My company announced that my department was being reorganized. Several employees were laid off. I was one of them. I remember sitting in my car afterward, staring through the windshield. I didn't know what I was going to do. Rent was due. The electric bill was due. Ethan needed new school shoes. I felt the familiar panic rising in my chest. When I got home, I didn't tell Ethan immediately. I smiled. I made dinner. I asked about his day. I helped him with homework. Then, after he went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table and cried. The next morning, I found something beside my coffee cup. A small glass jar. Inside were coins. Not many. Maybe $5. And a piece of paper, for Mom, in case she needs it. I stared at the jar. Ethan walked into the kitchen. He saw me holding it. "Oh, did you do this?" He nodded. "It's not much." I knelt down. "Ethan, I know $5 isn't enough." I pulled him into my arms. "You're wrong." "How?" "It's worth more than $5 million to me." He laughed. "You're exaggerating." "No." I looked into his eyes. "You taught me that I don't have to carry everything alone." I eventually found another job. It wasn't perfect, but it was closer to home. The hours were better. And for the first time in years, I had dinner with Ethan most nights. We started a new tradition. Every Friday, we'd eat pizza and talk about our week. No phones, no television, just us. One Friday, I asked him, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" He thought about it. "A mechanic." I smiled. "Because of Mike?" "No." "Then why?" He looked at me. "So I can fix things." "What kind of things?" He shrugged. "Cars." Then he smiled. "And maybe people." I laughed. "People aren't cars." "I know. But sometimes they're broken." He nodded. "And somebody has to help." I stared at him. "Where did you get so wise?" He shrugged. "Probably from you." I smiled. Years passed. Ethan grew. The little boy who once saved coins became a teenager. Then a young man. He went to college. He studied engineering. And every year on my birthday, he gave me something small. Never anything extravagant. One year it was a handwritten letter. Another year it was a framed photograph. One year he bought me the same kind of brown boots I had once admired. When I opened the box, I laughed. "You remembered?" He smiled. "I remember everything." On my 50th birthday, Ethan came home. He was 21. He walked through the front door carrying a large package. "Happy birthday, Mom." "What is that?" "Open it." I laughed. "You're still terrible at surprises." "I learned from you." I opened the box. Inside was a beautiful wooden frame. There was a photograph inside. It was the picture from the day he bought the brake pads. I was kneeling beside him in the garage. My face was wet with tears. His arms were around my neck. We were both laughing. I looked at the photograph. Then I saw the words engraved beneath it. The day my mom taught me that love isn't something you buy, it's something you give. I couldn't speak. Ethan hugged me. Happy birthday. I held him tightly. I love you. I love you too. Then he whispered, You know what I remember most about that birthday? What? You cried? I laughed. I cried a lot. No. He pulled back. You cried because you realized someone was taking care of you? I looked at him. He smiled. I wanted you to know you didn't have to be strong every second. That night, after Ethan went home, I opened the old drawer where I kept important things. Inside was his first birthday card. The one with the construction paper heart. I found the note from the brake pad gift. The handwriting was childish. The letters uneven. The words simple. But I read it again. Mom, I know you always say you don't need anything. So I saved enough to get you something you really need. I smiled. He had been right. I did need something. I needed to know that all those late nights mattered. I needed to know that the sacrifices hadn't gone unnoticed. I needed to know that my little boy understood. And he did. Maybe not in the way I expected, but he understood. Years later, Ethan became a father himself. When his daughter turned 9, he called me, Mom. Yeah? Do you remember the birthday when I bought your brakes? I laughed. How could I forget? I told my daughter about it. What did you tell her? That my mom taught me how to love people? I smiled. What did she say? She asked if I was rich. I laughed. What did you tell her? I said no. I was just a kid with a jar of coins. We both laughed. Then he became quiet. Mom. Yeah? I don't think I ever thanked you properly. For what? For teaching me that giving doesn't mean having a lot. I smiled. You learned that all by yourself. No. He paused. I learned it by watching you. Sometimes we think children aren't paying attention. We think they don't notice when we skip something for ourselves. We think they don't see the tiredness behind our smiles. We think they don't understand why we work late. Why we say no. Why we stretch $1 into 2. Why we keep going when we're exhausted. But they see. They may not understand it immediately. But they see. And someday, when they're old enough to understand the sacrifices behind the little things, they may surprise you. For me, it was a 9-year-old boy with a jar full of coins. He didn't buy me diamonds. He didn't take me on a vacation. He didn't give me anything expensive. He gave me something much more valuable. He gave me proof that my love had reached him. He gave me the feeling that after years of taking care of everyone else, someone was finally taking care of me. And that was the greatest birthday gift I had ever received. Because the real gift wasn't the brake pads. It wasn't the coins. It wasn't even the letter. The real gift was knowing that my little boy had been watching all along. He had seen me. He had understood me. And he loved me enough to save every penny just to say, Mom, you take care of everyone. Today let me take care of you. And even now, whenever I hear the sound of coins clinking together, I think about that little boy. The boy who couldn't afford much. The boy who thought $5 could save his mother. The boy who taught me that love doesn't have to be expensive to be priceless. Sometimes love is a handwritten note. Sometimes it's a jar of coins. Sometimes it's a child quietly, giving up the things he wants because he wants something even more. And sometimes, the smallest gift comes from the biggest heart. If this story touched your heart, remember to cherish the people who quietly sacrifice for you. Tell them you love them while you still have the chance. And if you enjoyed this emotional story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heartwarming stories.